Welcome, friends, to Inks and Issues, a book club podcast for comics. I'm your host, Jonah Gregory.
And my name is Kieran, and you can sprinkle me on top of any muffin anytime.
Ooh, that sounds pretty lewd for this PG at all times podcast, Kieran.
Oh, sorry, yeah. My name's Kieran, and you can on top of anytime.
Exactly. So today we're going to be talking about the second half of Bloom by Kevin Panetta and Savannah Gunachow, which we still don't know if we're saying that right, but I'm just best guessing it. So apologies there. So Kieran, do you want to give us a quick recap of what happened last time?
Yeah, so there's two boys, and they work in a bakery, they're gay, and it's cute.
Okay, fair.
Yep. No, there's a young boy, Ari. He works in his family's Greek bakery, but he's not sure if that's really what he wants to do, because he's pretty keen on getting out to the big city and, making it big with his band, which is really easy to do, which is why everyone does it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And his dad's like, if you want, you can find someone to take your place at the bakery, then you can go. And Ari's like, help wanted, must be hot and part Samoan and also know how to bake. And so that's what he finds in Hector, who's a hot part Samoan boy who knows how to bake. And the two have a blossoming relationship. And stuff happens. His friends are...
We find out that sometimes the friends you grew up with are actually terrible people.
Yeah, especially if the name is fucking Cameron.
Sorry to any Camerons that aren't assholes out there, but the one in this book is a trash human.
Uh-huh, he surely is.
But don't worry, he'll be back.
All you Cameron fans out there, don't worry.
Uh-huh. He's gonna be a huge hit in the city because, anyone in a band that's successful has to be, by default, a massive asshat. That's how it works?
Yeah, that's how it works. That's why you and I couldn't be in bands. We're too nice.
Oh, okay. That's why my bands never... What? No, that's not true. I've only played a couple gigs and they were all paid. So you know what? I think I'm a few steps ahead of... I'm a professional musician who hasn't played guitar in like 15 years. To be fair, I was there more to sing.
I feel like the reason my bands failed is I had no musical talent at all, but
I was leaning pretty heavily on the fact that this band was already established and just needed a new singer. And then they were like, hey, learn this chord progression, which that kind of stuff's pretty easy for me, usually, just because I grew up playing piano. So I'm like, oh, okay, I know what chords are. So we're going to get into, like we mentioned last week, this book is not really broken up into chapters or anything. So Kieran was kind enough to take notes and break them up into sections. So this week we're going to be talking parts 4, 5, and 6. And then the short epilogue at the end. So I'm going to just say now, because I think it was pre-show when I mentioned it before, I've been sick for a while. My throat is still really sore today. So if I sound weird or have to clear my throat a bunch or whatever, I apologize. I'm trying to just power through because, we don't want to be super behind again. So I'll dive into part 4. If I need to tap out, I will just pass it over to you, Kieran, okay? Because I think I had to do that last time.
You did. And I was more than happy to take up that mantle.
All right. Well, part 4 takes place the day after we had the scene of Ari and Hector. That's when they're on the roof, and it's like this cute scene of them just kind of like getting to know each other and talking about their lives and their dreams and all that good stuff. But then Ari almost falls off the roof, but Hector catches him. He is the problem solver in the relationship, which was actually, we find out the problem with his last relationship.
Yep.
So the next day, Ari's parents are making phyllo pastry while Hector and Ari are watching. Hector says that it would be great to have someone to partner with like that, to be so in sync with, which makes Ari blush for the billionth time.
Of the billionth time. So here is a fun fact about phyllo pastry. So in The Joy of Cooking, the big American cookbook, which I'm sure that everyone has a copy of somewhere.
I think everyone has a copy from their grandma or something at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly. My grandma actually does have a copy, and my dad has a copy that he was gifted by my grandma like 10 years ago.
Oh, perfect.
And so in the drawer of cooking, there's an entire section on pastry and how to make different kinds of pastry and like different tips and tricks for making like sweet short or like flaky puff and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And there is, I shit you not, the section on phyllo pastry just says, phyllo pastry is a complicated, thin pastry. It is far more efficient to simply buy what you need.
Wow.
And it doesn't tell you how to make it. It just straight up says, nah, dude, just fucking buy it, eh?
Oh, I like that. That's hilarious. It's just even the author of probably the most famous cookbook ever written just had to throw their hands up and be like, you know what? Fuck phyllo pastries.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's fantastic. So later, Ari and Hector go and meet Andrew and Meg for a day on the town. They visit a fish market for lunch, which I assume does not have guys throwing fish like the Pike Place Market does.
That's such a cool market. I love that market.
And they mention that Hector's going to be headed back to his hometown for a bit. Meg and that's his friend from out of town. Andrew and Meg are Andrew's his Hector's ex, and Meg is their like mutual friend that always is hanging out.
They're straight friend.
Yeah. So just because we haven't mentioned that this episode, I should probably mention who those people are before we move on.
Just Andrew and Meg. Everyone knows.
Yeah, everyone knows them. So he's got to head back to town for a bit. And since Ari didn't know this, he is hurt again because I like Ari, but he's definitely kind of a baby. Like, he has a lot of growing up to do still and takes everything like this very personally. It's like, it's not really about you, dude. Like, he's gone through some crap.
Ari is one of those characters where I'm like, ugh, why does he have to blah, blah, blah? And then I'm also like, no, that's me as well. I hate this boy because he's so relatable.
That's why you're angry about this character. Is you're like, excuse me, Kevin, were you spying on me?
Yeah, excuse me, Kevin, why am I being attacked?
You're clicking the, this is a photo of me and I do not like it.
Yeah, I'm
on
reporting
Twitter.
this comic to Facebook.
So the next morning, Hector comes by and finds Ari sitting in the dark because he's moping. Because, that's what he does. Flicks on the light and says, they've got bagels to make. And Ari, he doesn't care. He's just too busy pouting. So Hector, he just gets to work. But despite himself, Ari starts to smile. Because, when there's a cute boy, while baking in front of you and just living life, it's hard not to smile, right?
Oh, it is. It's beautiful. I love it.
So eventually we get another of those cute montages because Ari gets over himself and joins in. So that's good. I was a little worried hitting this point that I'm like, oh, is this where they're going to like wedge in some sort of, a sitcom style, like, I'm mad at you, but I'm not going to tell you why situation.
Yeah, I was really worried that Hector at some point in this bit of the story was going to be like, so what's wrong? And Ari was going to be like, you should know, and then leave. And I'll be like, well, it's exhausting. But thankfully, no.
They act a little bit more like actual humans. And like, when Hector's
nice.
like, I actually do have to go home and check on some things. It's not really about you. And I am going to miss you. And then they hug because, you know what? Talking about your problems, or if you're upset with someone, is actually better than bottling it up and then exploding on them later, it turns out.
I'm sorry. What? I thought this was a podcast about comics, not crazy things.
I know. Not about fake things that don't exist. This is about comic books and superheroes. So
exactly.
The realest of real. Hector leaves and Ari gets into some serious big-time moping. Which, of course, his mom, being a mom, immediately picks up on.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, I get it. You've always been a sensitive boy, but don't let your emotions rule you. And surprisingly, again, Ari actually tries to listen to this advice, which, again, I thought he was going to be like, you don't understand, Mom. And he was just like, wow, my mom's actually, an actual human person and not just a one-dimensional character.
Yeah. I really like his parents.
Yes, his parents are great. Like, I was expecting to not like them at first because of the way his dad is portrayed, but then as you get to know them, you're like, oh, he's just, got kind of a weird personality, but he's actually like a super chill dude when it comes down to it.
Yeah, 100%. His dad is like the daddest dad to ever dad, but he is like a great dad is the thing.
Yeah, he's very loving and supportive, but he's also like,
yeah,
you don't have your stuff figured out yet, so until then, just keep doing this because otherwise you're just going to be like drifting aimlessly, and that's not healthy.
And Jesus Christ, Ari, stop hanging out with fucking Cameron all the goddamn time.
God, right? I wonder how many times he tried to like uninvite Cameron to things when they were little.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Where he's like, oh, I forgot to tell his parents that it was your birthday party this weekend. So sorry, Cameron.
Sorry, Ari. Cameron couldn't come because he had explosive diarrhea again. I don't know what's up with that.
It's just, you know that Cameron. Always with the diarrhea.
Always with the milk. He's just
chugging it. He loves it. Can't get enough. So meanwhile, Hector serves his friends back home a Greek piece of baking that I'm sure he learned at the bakery because, you know, Greek bakery and all. And they all love it. And, you know, he's like, I miss the bakery already, even though he hasn't been gone that long. And Meg is like, oh, and you miss your boyfriend. And Hector's like, yeah, but some time apart's probably for the best. So, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good when you're in a, you know, early parts of a relationship. You don't want to be, I mean, it's different for everybody, obviously, but, you know, if he needs some space, give him some space.
Well, I feel like Ari's what, like 19 or something?
He's got to be very young, yeah.
Yeah. And Hector would probably only be like a little bit older than he is because he's only done 1 year of, you know, bakery school. So I feel like when you're at that age, it's probably a good idea to like know like what your thing is like without the other person.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Comics, superheroes, and relationship advice. There is nothing this podcast will not give you.
So a little while later, the band tells Ari that the band is no longer a thing and that Cameron and Lauren are off to the city to do their own thing. And Ari, you know, he's very crushed at first, but they're like, he's like, why haven't we been talking about this? And they're like, well, we have, but you aren't here ever. So that's why you didn't know what was going on. And that's where we kind of get the sense of like, oh, he is spending all his time at the bakery now with Hector because that's where he's actually happy, not hanging out with his friends, only what, like 2 of which are not contemptible people.
Oh my God, yes.
So they're like, yeah, this is pretty much what they've been talking about. But then Cameron has to be a huge dick to everybody and be like, it's your fault anyway, Ari, because you stopped coming to the band practice. And Ari storms out, quite rightly.
I like when he's like, on that note, I'm out of here. I'm like, yeah, good. You should leave because that was totally fucking not called for at all.
No, it had nothing to like. Yeah, you can't blame the entire band on like not even the main dude.
Yeah, like I think. Hang on, let me just look back to that little YouTube video that he shows his dad.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what he plays.
I want to say keyboard.
Yeah,
he plays keyboard.
I thought I was thinking keyboard. I mean,
yeah. So it looks like Hannah plays the drums, Lauren plays rhythm guitar, Jake's on bass, and Cameron's obviously on lead guitar and vocals, and so Ari plays the keyboard. So I'm like, it's not really his fault. He's like, you know, the keyboard is obviously, you know, it's important.
Mm-hmm. Depending on the style of music, sure.
Exactly. But it's not like you can't practice without a keyboard.
No, exactly. And keyboard is actually the easiest thing to practice away from the rest of the band, I would say.
Yes, I would definitely say that.
Having played both piano and various types of guitar when I was younger.
I think we can musically prove that Cameron's a dick.
I agree. I think if you look at it from that perspective. So Ari comes back home and is happy to see that Hector's there. But he's all upset and he's like, why did you leave? And blah, blah, blah. I don't matter to anyone. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't matter to my friends. And Hector tries to comfort him, but Ari pushes him away. So Hector leaves because, you know, and honestly, he should have because he's like, 100%. You know, my last relationship was ruined by someone being way too needy. And I'm not doing that to myself again. I'm like, you know what, Hector? Good for you. Boundaries are important.
Yeah, he says, you're obviously going through something right now and you're trying to put it on me. And that's not going to happen. So I'm going to leave. And I'm like, yeah, good. You should.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the end of part 4. So what did you think of part 4?
I love it when people write characters that act like actual human beings. So I was really digging this. I enjoyed that there were problems, and there was conflict, and then people talked about it. and kind of resolve some of that conflict. And then at the end of the chapter, there was conflict and people talked about it and they brought it up, and then people had normal human reactions to it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was way too much Cameron, obviously, in this part for my liking.
He's on that one page, and you're like, tear this page out.
Take that right out. Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. Like, I think, like, Hector leaving is, like, a really good development for their relationship, because it puts a bit of strain on it, which, like, it sounds bad to be like, yeah, I want it to be strained, ha ha ha. But it's like, you want there to be a bit of complication within the relationship to, explore the different corners of it. So yeah, I really liked it. What do you think?
I enjoyed it because I feel like it really gave us, like you said, like a sense of realism as far as how characters are behaving. And like their reactions from every character, except for maybe Cameron, are exactly like what you would expect. Although Cameron does react exactly like some very dickish people I've known, so he is pretty accurate too.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
But I like one of the things I was really enjoying about this book is like there are some stakes, but they're very low, but they're very personal at the same time.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, yeah, we do a lot of superhero stuff, and you can only save the world so many times, right?
Well, yeah.
So I'm happy to be reading something that's so like personal feeling, where it makes me curious about, the author's own relationships and what they've been through. Like, what experiences are they drawing off of? Like, that's what I can, that's what I think of when I read this type of book.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So, all right. Well, let's get into part 5.
So the next day, Ari comes downstairs and Hector is there. He, Ari that is, apologizes for how he acted and says that he missed him, which is kind of cute. And Hector's like, yeah, I missed you too. Go work at the front of the bakery, and pushes him out onto the front counter. And while they're working, and I thought this was so cute, because this is like the exact kind of shit that I love in a relationship. So Hector notices that Ari looks really depressed while he's working. And so after the day is finished, Hector's like, I'm going to make you something. And he takes this like loaf out of the oven, and he's like, making this like whipped cream and stuff, and just being like, yeah, I just wanted to make you something, like, and you're gonna love it. And after he takes the loaf out of the oven, Ari turns him around and they kiss.
Grandpa, is this a kissing book?
It is a kissing book, and they do kiss multiple times, and they start making out, like, just in the bakery. And honestly, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. 10 out of 10. More, please. Unfortunately, the moment can't last. So while they're kissing, a stray tea towel falls into the opening of the oven and catches on fire and sets the kitchen ablaze. Ari's parents come downstairs and they all evacuate as the recipe books, kitchen, sourdough starter, and the entire bakery burns to the ground. Afterwards, Hector takes the fall for the accident and is fired from the bakery. And that's the end of part 5.
This, man, this section goes from like cute to heartbreaking so fast, where it's like, just sucks everything. Like the place burning down, it's like that's his family home and their business and where he was, where he grew up, and they lose the sourdough starter, which we mentioned in part 1. That was like a thing that's been in their family forever. And honestly, it's the kind of thing like you're always paranoid about happening, like leaving the oven on or whatever, and to see it actually cause someone to lose everything like that is just heartbreaking. Like it's rough to see that in this,
especially coming off the back of like such an emotional high of like finally having that sort of, I guess, payoff for their relationship. And you're like, oh my God, they finally did it. And it's amazing. And oh, fuck, no.
Yeah. And they did set up like Chekhov's, burner that won't shut off or whatever. Yeah. Because they showed early on, like when Hector first shows up and is getting trained, he's like, oh yeah, this oven's never really worked right. And there's this one knob that's always like fidgety. And, normally I've had electric stoves, but I did live in a place with a gas stove once, and I was so paranoid all the time about that thing. just because of this exact type of thing. Where it's like, but what if the gas didn't turn off?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then Hector taking the fall was like, man, I get it, but man, that sucks.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those moments where I was like, like I get why you're doing this, but also no.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Did you have more on part 5?
More gay kissing in books, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's listen up, people who write comics.
Don't imply kissing unless you're willing to show it. Don't be a coward.
Exactly. All right. Part 6. This is the last part.
So sometime later, I think this is what is this supposed to be? August? So it's like a couple months later. Ari is now living in the city. Amazing.
He made it.
But on Cameron's couch.
Oh, the worst couch.
The worst couch. And as I've written here, it sucks. Partly because Cameron is a huge dick, but also partly because he's working a job that he doesn't like. He doesn't have any friends in the city, and he misses Hector. And yeah, just this is the last time we're going to see him in the book. And yeah, Cameron's a massive dickhead to him, and it's like, you need to find like your own place or pay rent. And Ari's like, I sleep on your couch, you piece of shit. No one else.
Yeah, he's like, I pay you rent to sleep on your couch.
And yeah, just like the panel where he's like, all I'm saying is you pay the rent or I kick you out. Got it? And he's like sitting at the table, shirtless, eating cereal, threatening him with a spoon. And I'm just like, how did you two ever end up being friends? How do you have friends to begin with?
Exactly. He's quite the piece of work.
Yeah, he is. But anyway, while at Cameron and Lauren's concert that evening, he runs into Chad, who they met at the, festival, whatever it was. And he asks if he's talked to Hector recently. And Chad's like, I don't know, just text him, like, whatever, and then leaves.
It's like, whatever, random child that I've met once.
Yeah, pretty much. So thoroughly upset and very confused, Ari leaves the concert and takes the bus back home. Thank goodness. He arrives at the motel his parents are staying at, and he just immediately breaks down crying in the doorway. They bring him inside, and his dad starts making something for him to eat. It's like 1:30 in the morning at this point as well, by the way. I should clarify. And the first thing his dad says is like, hey, you must be hungry. I'll make something to eat. And they're living in a motel. And I'm like,
yeah.
I love his dad so much.
He's like, I'm just going to fire up the old hot plate and make you some food.
Yeah. And I'm like, I get that. That's really nice. I like that a lot. And so Ari gets him to sit down, and he confesses that it was his fault that the bakery burned down, and he's sorry for all the hurt that he caused everyone. His dad's quiet for a moment, and then just continues cooking. He tells Ari that when he was younger, Ari loved to bake with him and was really happy. But then he seemed to lose that happiness, and Hector helped him find it again. His dad says that maybe what he should do is try being what he loves, not what he thinks he should be. And ooh, baby, that is some good ass advice.
Yes.
Yeah, when his dad said that, I was like, could you make me a midnight pancake and give me some advice? Because I feel like no matter what, you would say something very good.
Yes, exactly.
Extremely, extremely relatable. Just before he goes back to sleep, he asks Ari if they should retire or rebuild the bakery together. And Ari's like, rebuild the bakery. And that was the correct answer. Mm-hmm. So the next day, Jake and Hannah come to see him, and they say that they're sticking around town to go to college. And Ari is pretty stoked by this because he finally has like 2 friends who aren't dicks.
Yes, the 2 good friends out of this group are like, hey, we're going to stay here and go to college because, I'm sure local colleges are, 10 times, if not more, cheaper than a university here. So,
yes. Later, Ari and his dad go to the burned out shell of the bakery to see what there is to salvage. Not much, but Ari's scooter is in good shape. So Ari drives the scooter to Hector's place, which he sees is up for sale. I tell you what, when I was reading this bit, I was like, fuck, if Hector doesn't end up being here, I'm going to scream and throw this book across the other side of the room.
I'm going to write a very angry tweet to Kevin Panetta and be like, how dare you break my heart like
At
this?
Kevin Panetta in the bathroom crying, what the fuck, man? Hashtag broken.
Exactly.
It's sitting in my drafts.
I do follow him, and he is a very cool dude on there. So
he is very cool. Yeah. No, Kevin Panetta is great. Ari apologizes, and Hector says that Ari forgot about him. Ari says that he never did. He just assumed Hector wouldn't want to see him, and Hector bites back that he didn't even try. Mm-hmm. But he would have forgiven him because he likes him and wants to support him. Ari apologizes again, and they hug. And that's the end of part 6. What'd you think?
It was very good. I like that it gives us a good sense of what his life would have been had he followed his dream in the first place, which is probably still would have just been him sleeping on Cameron's couch and Cameron being a dick to him every single day. Like, had they all moved to the city together, that situation would have probably been almost identical. Yeah. The difference being maybe he would have had his own room, or maybe he would have had like a bedroom he shared with, hopefully not Cameron.
Hopefully not Cameron, yeah.
But
you know what? Cameron's probably one of those dudes who would pee on you in the middle of the night and think it was really funny.
It's just jokes, man. You can't just take jokes, a joke.
Man. Yeah, it's just a prank. Man, fuck Cameron. I hate them so much.
I like how we're putting extra crappy things on Cameron and then being like, could you believe that Cameron did that to him?
Could you believe Cameron?
Did you see that Cameron did a total paint job in the bathroom? And then he blamed it on Hector.
Can you believe that Cameron took way too big a mud pie and used too small a slice?
And now Ari's stomach is absolutely fucked.
Just about to say Ari's stomach is fucked.
But yeah, I really liked that. And then I also liked that Ari's arc ended in a very human, like, going home and being like, hey, you know that whole I'm going to go do all these things that I want to do? Turns out that was all stupid, and I should have listened to all of the people who love me that were giving me good advice.
Yeah.
And that his parents and Hector all were like, okay, you acknowledged you fucked up, let's move on. I'm like, awesome. That's like what you should do.
Yeah.
And they weren't like holding grudges or like bringing it up, holding it over his head or anything like some, like a Cameron.
Ugh. Disgusting. Yeah, I really like the same with his dad and his mom back at the motel. I really liked it because it was just like I really enjoy seeing like good parent-child relationships in stuff. And yeah, and like you said, like his parents are he's like, hey, like it was totally my fault that like, some of us almost died and we like lost our livelihood and the place that we live. And they're like, it was an accident. That's okay. And like, we're just glad that you're okay. And that, that you've now kind of realized what it is that you want to do and that you're kind of rediscovering your, as his dad says, your happiness. So yeah, I really liked it. I really liked it.
Yeah. The God, I feel so bad for his parents too with everything that happens in this book, like where they're like, they were already struggling, then this happened and they got a decent payout. That's why he's like, well, we could just retire.
Yeah. Or
if you actually want to pursue this, they're like actually giving their son the option, which I'm like, wow, that's huge of them. Because I think most parents would just be like, yeah, we're going to just take the money and run because that's the easier out.
100%. And I also really, I enjoyed that the reunion between Ari and Hector, like it wasn't very clean. You know what I mean? There was no like kind of big declaration on either part about like anything that kind of had happened prior. It was like everything else in the book. It was really human. Like it was very much just like, I'm sorry, I fucked up. And it's like, yeah, you did. And I was real mad. I'm really sorry. And I'm super not going to do it again. And then they just kind of hug and that's sort of it, which I felt like in a way like made it better than if they'd kind of, they'd seen each other across the way and the violins had played and they'd professed their they professed their love and their regrets and this whole, you know, like that would have been nice as well, for sure. But I feel like this was more realistic and, you know, it sounds redundant for me to just be like, it was nice, but I mean, it was, you know.
Yeah. I think it was more satisfying because it felt like, so say the ending you had just described happened, you'd be like, okay, but like, what about all this, you know, bad stuff in the air that's going to be between them now? Like, they're going to have to address that at some point. So getting it out of the way immediately with an apology and stuff is like, okay, great. Now they can start from square one and be happy.
And I do like as well that Ari is like he's a main character that is like, he's allowed to be flawed, because he totally is, but like he's allowed to be flawed in terms of the story, but none of the other characters let him be flawed. Like, he doesn't kind of like get away with his shit just because he's the main character and the story needs him to get away with it. Like, Hector and his parents are more than happy to be like, hey, could you not? Could you?
Yeah, he's kind of the opposite of Scott Pilgrim, now that I think about it.
Yeah, 100% actually.
Where he's like, you know, this listless dude who is in a band and just doesn't know what to do with his life, and people start moving on, and his friends are way too forgiving. But in this, they actually call him on it.
Yeah.
In that one, you know, all the friends are the ones that you're rooting for because Scott is such a dick for most of the book.
Yeah, whereas in this, like, Ari is kind of a dickhead as well, but he actually shows like a willingness to, you know, not be.
Right. He's learning and growing.
Aren't we all?
All right, let's do the epilogue real quick so we can get into some final thoughts. So, epilogue is really short but good. So, in the epilogue, it's Christmas time, and Ari and his family are settling in when Hector, Jake, and Hannah arrive.
Yay.
Hector's gone back to school, too, and Ari's been working on rebuilding the bakery with his family. They're both very proud of each other, and it is very cute.
It's super cute. I loved it.
But the best thing is, to add to the occasion, Hector gives them a cool gift, which is that sourdough starter that Ari's dad had given him when he first started at the bakery. And everyone is super happy. And Ari tells Hector he loves him. And that's the end of the epilogue and the end of the book.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts on Bloom.
This is one of my favorite comics that I've read in a very long time. I haven't done like a top 10 at any point. Probably should at some point. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that for the show. I don't know. We'll do it at some point, I'm sure. So I haven't done a top 10, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this made it into my top 10. It is wholesome. It is super, super cute. It's explicitly gay, which I love. And yeah, I think it's such a cute story. It's such a well written and realistic story, and such a good portrayal of like actual human relationships. There's nothing really fake about like any of the relationships between any of the characters in this. Like there are no bits where I like roll my eyes or be like, oh yeah, whatever, like you know, this would never happen sort of thing. I really cannot state how much I enjoyed this, both the first time and the second time. And to be honest, I will probably read it a third time as well. Like the art is so gorgeous. It's so good. And like, it's such a soft and comfortable story to just kind of be in. You know, the first time I read it, I just read it all in one sitting. And the second time that I read it, I was like, I'll see if I can mark out like some parts, and I'll read like a bit, and then I'll do like a bit of recap, and then I'll read a bit and do a recap. I just read the whole thing in one sitting just again because I was just enjoying it so much. And
it's such a quick read too.
Yeah.
It looks like a big volume, but it moves so fast.
What is it? It's like 200, 300 something page. It's 352 pages, but it does not feel like 352 pages at all. So yeah, like if you like good comics, read Bloom, I guess is really what I'm saying.
Yeah.
My highest recommend that I can offer on the show. What do you think?
That's fair. hated. No, just kidding.
What?
No, I totally agree. It is definitely one of the best graphic novels I've read. Like, especially for a standalone book that you just need the one volume. You can recommend it to anybody because it's so like, it's, just go, hey, you don't know anything about comics? That's fine. Read this. You don't have to like have any background knowledge or anything like that. It's great for just diving in. That's all good from like a cost effective, like get your friend into comic perspective, but much deeper than that. Like I mentioned earlier, like I love how there are stakes, but they're very personal stakes to the characters, and none of them are like, they're important, but they're only important to those characters, really. Like, they're not the kind of thing that if Ari and Hector don't get together, then the town is going to fall apart. Like, it's just so realistic and human. And even stuff like him running into Hector's friend at the concert late in the book and being like, oh, hey, do you know where he is? And him being like, I have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many little human moments like that are just so realistic and so well pulled off.
Yeah. I feel like in another book about the same thing, he would have been like, oh, have you talked to Hector? And been like, oh yeah, I have. And he said this and this other thing. And I can't believe that. But instead he's just like, nah, like I talked to him a couple times, but like, we're not friends or anything. Who are you? Go away. Just text him.
Yeah. Yeah, like we're casual acquaintances. I don't know what you're thinking here, but so yeah, I really liked it on that level, and just the way the story unfolds, it feels really realistic. Like there's no point where it's like this huge revelation of something happening. Really, it's like the one big thing being like their home and bakery burning down it's enough. Like that, even that feels so much bigger because it's in such a setting that's so small and personal that in another book that wouldn't be as impactful. And like, I just know the way the relationships unfold feels so real. Like the people you grew up with that you kind of have a soft spot for, but they're Cameron, and so you shouldn't like them at all. You shouldn't really hang out with them. And it's like, I've had friends where looking back, I'm like, well, why was I a friend with that kid? He was kind of an ass to me all the time. Yeah. And it's like, oh, proximity. That's a huge thing when you're little.
Oofed-a-doofed.
Uh-huh. So stuff like that just feels so genuine, and it just, everything about it feels so sincere, and it like, I don't know, it's almost like a warm blanket, Like,
it is 100% a warm blanket. Like it's
I mean that in the best possible way. Like that is, it's just so well told. And like you said, the art is so good, and just
so good.
It draws you in. And some of those pages, the montages, especially where it's them baking together and like when they're falling in love, and there's just these really cool laid out montages with the borders are like different flowers. And it's just, I don't know, everything about it just worked perfectly for
100%. I didn't mention this before, and I cannot remember if I mentioned it in the previous episode, so I apologize if you're, doing like a big old like binge or something. But one of the things I actually really, really liked about this book, like a huge amount, is it's a gay relationship, obviously, the two guys falling in love and having a relationship together. But that is just an aspect of the book. It's not really an aspect of the story. In that, like, their relationship is just a given. They get together and they kind of like it blossoms and it develops, and no one around them at any point
not even Cameron,
who 1,000% in real life would totally be the kind of person to make fun of someone for being gay, says anything about it. Like in this world, being gay is like there's nothing to it whatsoever. And I loved that because I enjoy stories that represent like real experience and real life. But at the same time, I really enjoy stories where people don't have to constantly struggle against the same things that they experience in real life. Like, sometimes I just want to read a story where there are gay people and they are just happy.
Yeah.
and they
exactly.
don't have to like justify their existence and their relationship. And this does that. And I mean, that's probably partly why I loved it so much.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's never a like coming out moment like that would have, even though that could have easily been appropriate for the story, like it wasn't necessary for the story they were telling. So and that might be one of the reasons it's just, like I said, it's a warm blanket to read because it's like realistic in so many ways, but minus the cruelty of the real world in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And I feel like it's Cameron aside, obviously,
sure,
because that's who his character is. But it's about, like, it feels like it's about like all their relationships and things like that. But no one's nasty to each other at any point. Like, you know, there's no developments in the stories that are driven by someone being a dickhead. Like, people are making mistakes, but no one's actively trying to hurt anyone else. Again, disregarding Cameron, but that's kind of his function within the story, is to be a huge turd. So yeah, it's good, and you should buy it. It's super cheap on Amazon. Buy it already.
Buy it, give it a good review, help spread the word.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a good comic. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Easy recommend for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So, Kieran, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Mr. K_Bennett. You can also check out my D&D podcast for Crits and Giggles. We have not updated that particular show in a very long time, but I promise we're trying. And that is at for CNG Podcast on Twitter. Jonah, where can people find you on the net?
Oh, man, you can find me on Twitter at A Real Jonah. And also, I've been trying to stream some more again. So
I have noticed.
I'm over on twitch.tv/inksandissues. And I have to say hello and welcome to anyone who has found the show through there and or through some of the Discords I hang out on, because I had a few people recently be like, what's up with your username? So I'm like, well, I'm glad you asked. So if you found me and the show through that, welcome. I'm very happy that you decided to take a listen. So a little bit of news is we are both officially going to be at GeeklyCon this year. And you're not going to want to miss our panel, because
it's going to be really good.
We're finally going to be diving into some hardcore Garf content. The fans demanded it. It's coming. And with that, that's all I got for you this week. Anything else, Kieran?
No.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that, we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye. I love you.
And the baker will come, and the baker I'll be.
Need more mutants, metahumans, or monsters in your life? Then check out these other Geekly Inc. shows, including Cthulhu and Friends, Dear Internet, Greetings Adventures, Transformation Sequence, and many more fantastic podcasts. You can help us make the show the best it can be by supporting us over at patreon.com/inksandissues, where you can get bonus content, early access to episodes, and can even vote on comics for us to review. Don't forget to also leave us a 5-star rating and review to help us spread the word. Want to interact with us on Twitter? You can find us at Inks and Issues, or on Twitch at twitch.tv/inksandissues. Or you can find our wonderful editor Justin at MRECOCK on Twitter. Now do yourself a favor and go read some gosh darn comics.